Thank you for joining us, Gabe.
No worries. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys.
Tell us a little bit about where you grew up, where you got started, and how basketball kind of got into your life.
I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and the basketball originally started from, we had a friend around the corner from our neighborhood who passed away, and their parents no longer wanted their basketball hoop. So they knew my mother, a single mother of four, could use it, and she, was grateful that they gave it to her, and we put that stand-up NBA hoop in our backyard, and that's really where it started for us having like basketball involved in our childhood.
That's fantastic. What a great, that's, it's funny, I'm doing these interviews and everybody's story has like these moments that kind of get everything going. So you get started, how old are you at that time?
We could have been maybe, I don't know, 10, 11, maybe 12.
Okay. So when did organized basketball get going for you?
Organized basketball, the first organized basketball, league or anything that I played in was with the Police League of Detroit. It was a Bowie league. And they put a community program into the neighborhood. Each team was coached by a police officer. And I think that was the bridge and gap between, law enforcement and inner city, youth and things like that. I wasn't the best. I mean, I don't really consider that my first, but that was the first opportunity I had at playing basketball and being able to, have a group to commit to weekly. Outside of that, it moved on into middle school, which I didn't make the team. Give me 1 second.
No, we like the kids.
Hey,
the kids are all good.
Oh, yeah. Your girl's bum is showing all in the video. And their bathing suits, and they want to pretend that they're going swimming.
I could do some swimming right now. Anyway, so you get going. Then middle school. Talk about middle school.
Yeah, middle school going on. My brother is the star of the basketball team. He's like the star of us. He's the top. Drew was the top basketball player. And in middle school, you can't play until grade 7. So I try out. I didn't make the team. The team was too stacked. Like it was I don't even think I even went to tryouts, in grade 7. It was just too stacked. Grade 8, those bigger guys, they left. I felt like I had an opportunity. And I thought I was pretty good, but I still didn't make the team. And so I didn't get to play middle school ball. I was pretty passive at that age. Moving forward into grade 9, there was a junior varsity team, and I tried out for that, and I made that team. I was one of the only 2 grade 9s on the team. I scored 2 points that season, and those were free throws.
Okay.
So didn't really have much of an opportunity to sort of like to grow in game until senior year. I didn't really play varsity basketball until grade 12. Didn't make the team in grade 11. Team was too stacked. And I still stuck around to practice because my brother played on the team. And later I believe it was like the grade 11 of my season, there was an opportunity where a player quit. And the coach knew that I was, keen and interested. And I sort of knew some of the plays in offense because I was always at practice. And before the game, it was about, I think, 3 games before the season ended. And he, surprised me in the locker room because I carried the jersey bags for the team. He said, Gabe, you're suiting up. And he threw me a jersey, number 50. And I played that game. And that was like my first senior game, but it was like towards the end of grade 11 year. And that's really organized basketball, I would say, started grade 12 for me.
Okay, so you get going in grade 12. How's that season go? What's it like?
Season's good. I'm one of the better rebounders, one of the better defenders. We have a really good starting 5. Like our team was pretty mature because the majority of the guys have been playing varsity since grade 10 already. So they already knew. I'm the newcomer, so to speak, as far as like my first year on varsity. We did really good that year. We were picked to go to like the States. There was a big matchup between us and Flint Beecher, and we never got to make that championship run. We beat a couple teams out, and I believe a couple teams that were pretty upset with the loss. They wanted to file a claim or an appeal, something to the fact that one of our players was ineligible based on his age because he transferred over, 2 years ago, et cetera. And basically the timing of that, we never really got the chance to participate in the championship. So we were disqualified after that on our senior year.
Wow.
Yeah. It was brutal.
So you finished high school, and what ends up going on from there?
Well, I was really interested in going to school just for academics. Like, I wanted to go to Michigan State. I wanted to go to Kentucky. And I felt my grades were good enough that I could apply to anywhere that I wanted to and attend that school. So I didn't have any initial thoughts right out of high school to play basketball in college because, one, I didn't really believe I was ready to play college. So there was a couple gentlemen that when we were playing in the summer that would tell me about a junior college, and I had no idea about junior college. I didn't know what a junior college was. So it really went through one ear and out the other. I fast forward, I get accepted to Michigan State. I get accepted to
Gabe, you there?
Michigan to go to.
We cut out there. Gabe, we cut out there. So you got accepted to Michigan State, and then you got accepted to Kentucky?
Yep, Kentucky State, and then Eastern Michigan. A lot of my friends were going to Eastern Michigan, so I went to Eastern Michigan, and for academics, I went there. I played basketball recreationally inside the school. It was a real good school. It was really active on the rec side of things, like the gym. I think the gymnasium and like the rec hours at Eastern Michigan is really what helped me develop. I had no intentions on playing for a team, so I was able to freely just play without any pressure, without any, coaching, and without any, reprimanding for any mistakes, besides the players on my team that I didn't know would maybe get mad if I did something, but that rarely happened, But the competition in there was so elite, like at the top, the highest level. It was guys that did play university ball, and then they stopped, and they're just like graduate students. The football players on the team would come in and play. These were two-sport athletes. And there were guys in there that were, prospects. However, their grades were too low to participate on the team, so they could never really be officially on the team. But they would, use this gym as an outlet. So tryouts go for Eastern Michigan. I'm like, oh, maybe I should try out for this team. I think I'm good. Whatever. Try out. Nothing happens. The coach, he I don't think he even had any intentions on selecting anyone because it was his last year. I believe it was Coach Boone. It was his last year at the university. So I don't think he really had any intentions on picking up anyone anyway. Fast forward, I'm going into my sophomore year, and I stay on campus because at that time I didn't necessarily have anywhere home to go back to. If I rewind a little bit from grade 10 all the way through 12, I stayed with friends. Like I stayed with my classmate in grade 10, and I believe in grade 11, I believe I would stay with my brother's classmate. Like we had real good friends where we would just stay. So fast moving back into sophomore year, when that summer came, typically students go home and then they, stay home for the summer. I didn't have any intentions on that. So I stayed on campus, and the basketball team members also stayed on campus. And what I would do is they would have some open runs, and since I was close with some of the guys, they invited me a couple of times just because they needed a few extra bodies and all of the teammates weren't there. And I did that for the majority of the summer of the off season. Built a relationship and a rapport with the assistant coach and some of the players. And it was looking based on my development and based on how comfortable I was with playing with, the talent, that I was going to be a preferred or a walk-on, so to speak, because I still had to go to the tryouts and walk on. I do that, and the coach at the time had a rule for appearance, and then the appearance was you couldn't have any braids or long hair. You just couldn't have any of that needed to be cut. And at the time I had braids, and that was that. So I said, hey, I'll cut my hair if you let me know that I'm on a team. I'm just not going to cut it right off to the bat. And then next thing you know, you say, oh yeah, we already took the team, you didn't make it. So then I would feel like a little bit jaded if that happened. So I never cut my braids, and I never got a call back, from there. That's sophomore year.
So then what happened? So you finished that up. Obviously that's an unfortunate circumstance that happened there. But I think as most successful people, you kind of got to roll with the punches. So that doesn't work. What happens next?
What happens next is I finished school. The off season is coming again. Everything's. I'll text you. 1 second. Give me 1 second.
No problem. We'll edit this all out. We're good. Don't worry about it.
Okay. All right. I'm back. All right. So what happens next? Moving forward into the end of that year, me and a friend and his coach, his former high school coach, had workouts. This coach was a guy who always ran workouts for the top players in the area, high school and college. And none of that, he had relationships with a lot of players in general and coaches. So he would run these workouts. His name was Coach Brooks. Coach Brooks will run these workouts for free, no charge, no anything. And then he would have the gun up, he would have drills assigned, he would have workouts, and we would just go and work out. And then after we work out, we would scrimmage with the talent there. Sometimes you would have University of Michigan players there scrimmaging as well or working out with you. During that summer, I worked out the entire time, and it was something weird I remember. I shot left hand for a part of the summer, and I'm right-handed, but I wanted to challenge myself so crazy. I shot left hand for the entire, half of the summer. And the Coach Brooks said, if you're going to do that, you need to do that in these workouts and be consistent with it. I don't mind you switching, but don't go back. So I actually shot left hand for half the summer. Odd fact, weird fact,
Yeah, we'll take it.
After a workout one day, there was coaches in the stands, and Coach Brooks arranged the scrimmage to happen after the workout series. And then we would scrimmage, and we scrimmaged for about an hour and a half. After the scrimmage, two coaches approached me and my buddy Brandon, and he asked us, he said, hey, what's your plans for next year? Do you know about JUCO? And I said, well, what is JUCO? And he said, it's a community college. And as soon as I heard community college, I shut him down. I said, no, my grades are good enough for university. I'm not interested. Shut him down. It was very ignorant and inconsiderate, of me at that time. It was really, really immature, I would say, because I had no idea, about the benefits of junior college, transferring situation, and just the options outside of JUCO, right? So he said, well, I like what you have to offer. You're good. We'd be interested. I said, well, here, you could take my number, you know what I'm saying? But I really don't think it's going to work out because, I want to go to university. My grades are good enough for university. With grades, skill, two different things. I'm just really stuck on academics at this time.
Hey, good problem to have, by the way.
Yeah. So they call us, they get us down for a visit, and this was in Toledo, Ohio. And long time ago, like in 2005, when I didn't make the first Eastern Michigan tryouts, I had a goal that in 2006, 2007 year, I was going to earn a scholarship to play basketball. And if that meant walking on for the year 2005, 2006 at Eastern Michigan, earn my stripes, and then the following year I get a scholarship, that was my goal, was to take that route. 2006, 2007, get a scholarship to play basketball. So that was the goal. It didn't happen at Eastern Michigan, but I got offered the scholarship in Toledo, Ohio at the Owens Community College. And once I looked into, and they educated me on like transfer and transcripts, and like the grades that I already have from Eastern Michigan would transfer in, I would have about 40 something credits. I would be eligible to leave in the first year. I would be considered, a senior on the team, not just a freshman or a guy coming straight out of high school. I would have some season to me. So I took that scholarship because it aligned with the goal that I originally set for 2006, 2007. It just wasn't in the same city or the same school, but the goal was met. And I got a scholarship to play ball at Toledo at Owens Community College.
Fantastic. So tell us about that experience. It's very cool. So, one of the things we see all the time is people set goals, and then somehow you do one of these, and then eventually you actually get to your goal, which is exactly what happened with you. So tell us about that. You meet your goal, you get on a team, you're getting a scholarship. Talk about what happens there.
Well, you get your scholarship, you got to move down to another state. We don't have me and my buddy, we don't have any car. A friend, a really good close friend at the time, drove us down there, and we moved all our stuff in. Basically the coaches and everyone helped us get situated with an apartment and housing and things like that. You get down there, it's not straight to business and straight to the gym, right away, but you get acquainted with the team, you get acquainted with the coaches, and then you guys start practicing. You meet your players, you meet teammates from your city that you didn't know. We had two roommates. It was 4 of us in one apartment, and 2 of the guys were from Michigan. So there was some synchrony, we were able to at least relate in that matter because we were all from Michigan. Real good season, like really good turnout. We had some real good players. Like our final record, I believe, was 26-7. And I think it was 26-7, our final record that year, which was a real good season. I enjoyed it. I played like the post, like a 4 or 5. We had a lot of 5-out systems, but I think it was one of the best experiences I've had, just because they gave me an opportunity. They saw something in me, and they were willing to give me a scholarship to play for them. If this opportunity would have happened right out of high school, like me playing in front of these coaches, I don't think I would have gotten a scholarship.
Right.
I wasn't ready right out of high school. I didn't have the confidence. I wasn't comfortable. I didn't have really any skill development, right? So those 2 years playing in Eastern Michigan just recreationally and playing with the official basketball team in the summer, like those team members, that all helped. Like it factored all in, you know what I mean? So it happened at the time it was supposed to happen. Me getting a scholarship 2 years after high school was supposed to happen 2 years after high school. It's not a typical route. It's not a normal route. Most guys get scholarships right out of high school. That wasn't my case. It took time to develop that opportunity.
Well, you know what? It created some perseverance in you, and it showed that you had some perseverance, and you go find a way to make it happen. At the end of the day, a lot of the best things never actually work the first time. So realistically, in life, it's a story that's what it should happen like that. I mean, it's fantastic. So you pull it off, you end up playing there. What happens after Toledo for a year?
I got offered from a couple other Division II colleges, and what they wanted to offer me was a partial scholarship because I was eligible to leave right after the first year. I didn't necessarily want to take the offers on the table because I felt that I was worth more. I felt that I could have got better offers. I felt those offers weren't true to what I can actually give to a team, or just, it wasn't my goal. I wanted a full scholarship, point blank and simple. And I knew I was worthy of it. So I turned it down. I turned down all of the offers. And what I decided to do was sit out the following semester, or the following year, basically. And when everyone asked, what are you going to do for a year? I said, well, I'm going to take part-time credits so I don't burn any eligibility. And I'm going to train, and I'll also work out with the team from time to time. And they was like, well, how are you going to get a scholarship offer? I said, well, I'll go through the combines. I'll go through the tryouts in the off season. I'll go to the invitation things. I'll do the work required because I'm taking this step to sort of sit out a year anyway. So now I need to be prepared to do the back end road, you know, that's going to lead you into getting some exposure, or at least being seen by coaches. I would go to the practice at Owens, and, you know, of course, I would kick these guys' butt in practice. You know, I had some veteran, you know, skills to me. And then the coaches would be so keen. They said, Gabe, man, you should think about joining. You know, you got more eligibility. You should join this. And I said, nah, I think I want to save my eligibility so I can get a right, you know, scholarship, or go to a school and use it all there. The itch grew, and by second semester, they offered me. I told them that I was interested, and then they gave me a full scholarship to join for the remaining part of the season. And we went on to be undefeated. I think from my joining period to the end of the season, we didn't lose a game. I got offered several scholarships after that, and I turned down a lot of them. I turned down 4 scholarships, and it was between like Eastern Michigan and Ohio. There was a lot of similarities between these schools and coaches, and certain experiences that I learned. And one school at Eastern Michigan said, you know, you can't play on the team unless you cut your hair. You know, fast forward to Ohio and getting offered by several schools. One of the schools really loved me, and their biggest concern was my hair. And it was I think that school was like a $40,000 scholarship, you know, like yearly. That's what the school costs. And this is in West Virginia. So I say, yeah, you know, the thing is, I have to tell you is that your hair, you know, you're gonna have to cut it. And then, and I was like, oh my goodness, here we go again, you know, like another one. And I said, well, what's the reason behind that? You know, and the guy said, well, it was a student here a few years back. He stole some things, etc. And he, you know, in simple terms, he looked like you. And I was like, wow, you know, like, damn, man, like, I said, well, you know, no offense. I said, my job here is to hopefully open up those bleachers that you guys haven't opened, and, you know, in several years, and, you know, put some banners up there, or at least, you know, win some games so that the city can come out. And if the city or the community is not willing to accept me for who I am without any prejudgment, anything like that, then this probably isn't the school for me. And I said, I'll get back to you. I'll let you know. But he knew, and I knew I wasn't going there. And the word got back out onto the market that I was still available, and another school in that conference actually contacted me, and they offered me. I didn't like the offer right out of the way, so I held off from signing. And then the coach called me and said, hey, what's going on with the offer? Do you want to do it or not? I said the offer, it doesn't look good. And I said, I need full scholarship, basically, because if I'm going out of state, I'm going to get charged certain tuition, you know, out of state resident fees, out of state tuition charges, et cetera. I need to be able to buy deodorant. I need to be able to, live, just a little bit, So they thought about it, and I think he came back with a full scholarship, and I think it was around. I signed so late; it was probably the latest one could sign, and it's kind of risky, or like certain people live on that edge where they ride the wave until the end, and it's risky. It's sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes it's 70-30. You just don't know. But what I knew was that I believed in myself 100% that it was worth it. So I didn't necessarily worry, but I did wait out to the longest, and I felt that was the best decision, and it worked out for me. I got a scholarship to a Division II, Glenville State, down in West Virginia, full scholarship.
So you get that job. How's that season go down there?
Season goes good. We have a really good recruiting class. The coach picked out a lot of guys that was transfers or like JUCO. It was a lot of maturity on the team. That year, our team finished with the highest record in Glenville State history in 37 years. So we had a 20-plus win season. I believe we were 22-10. If I'm not mistaken, it was a 20-plus win season. And that school in history haven't had a 20-plus win season for the last 37 years. So we get to the, I believe it was in the conference championships. And we lose, I believe, in the semifinals, or to move on to the nationals. But real good season. I enjoyed it, every bit of it. It was home games. Home game crowd was great. Travel games were great. The competition was pretty good, and I enjoyed it. I got to play basketball and get an education at the same time.
Absolutely.
Me and the coaches didn't necessarily always see eye to eye, but I mean, I didn't start on the team. I was never a starter in junior college or in university. I was never a starter. I never started. I always came off the bench either sixth right away or seventh man. And for me, that worked for me. I didn't mind it. I actually enjoyed being the spark that the team needed. And then the coach trusted me enough to stay in the game longer than the guy who started in front of me. So I didn't necessarily need to start to really develop or at least prove, that I was worthy of being in the game in crunch times or, critical moments and things like that. It's a good, really good role. The coach trusted me. Maybe not enough to start me for whatever reason that was. I really won't know, but a lot of people on the outside felt the best players should start, and they felt that I was one of those best players. But I mean, every coach has his own philosophy, and if he feels or he doesn't want to break the chemistry between the starting group and you do better coming off of the bench and add in, then that's what it's going to be. And I was okay with that. I didn't have any egos about starting. I didn't need to start to show how good of a player I was.
Fantastic. So how do we end up in Vancouver?
So
how'd you end up in Vancouver?
Well, one of those, I ended up in Vancouver because one of those persons from the outside that saw or thought that I should have been a starter, at least getting more minutes, was from Vancouver. They attended the school for one semester, and they approached me in class and they said, "I saw your game last night. You had a really good game." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." So my name's Tanya. I'm from Vancouver. I live out in Vancouver, Canada. I'm just here to finish up my degree and things like that. Why don't your coach play you more? Like, is there a reason why you don't start? I said, I don't know. It's, big, I don't know, coach and player thing. So she said, well, I think you would be a really good fit in Canada. Like you would blossom. Like you would be a big fish in a small pond. And I was like, well, what do you mean? So, well, you're bigger, you're stronger, you got some skill. Some of the talent, I think, just in Vancouver in general, in Canada, at that time, I would be a big fish, as far as my development and et cetera. So I was like, well, I'm interested more about that. And coach, his name Koenig.
Gabe, it was breaking up
And
there. Gabe,
are we
let's
still
rewind
there?
real quick. It was breaking up there. So you said,
Okay.
I'm interested, and then
All
what
right.
happened after that?
Let's see now. She contacted her husband who has a really good, rapport in the basketball community in Vancouver, has, helped players before, I think coached with SFU and et cetera. So she told him about me. And when he came to the school at the time of graduation for his wife's graduation, he said he wanted to see me, he wanted to work me out, and then basically see if all the talk was good enough, and if they can help me do something in Canada just for having more options. I didn't really see the options that I wanted to see at the school I was currently at, with being held back between a relationship between player and coach, so I always thought if I could get more exposure or more opportunity, then it would be aligned with my goals to play professional, or at least have some post play after college. Frank Koenig is her husband. Frank Koenig is, Canadian. He's from BC. He's ran several programs in this area, BC's finest. He's helped tons of players, move on to college. That family was a family that really introduced me into Canada. And when he first saw me at the school, he worked me out. He put me through a workout and said, I think you have some good skill. And what I'm going to do is I'll send out some emails to a few coaches that I know that I think would benefit from your play style and things like that. So I said, sure, whatever, let me know. I didn't really believe him because, I've had a lot of, I guess in my upbringing, or like just, being in, in my inner city youth, not a lot of promises were kept. So I didn't necessarily take it negative or positive. I just said, sure, whatever, let me know. But I didn't believe anything would come from it, And about 2 to 3 days later, I got a really nice email mentioning my name, and it was very well put together. One of the best emails I've ever seen marketing me, selling me as a player. I was like, whoa, I sound pretty damn good, And I was like, whoa, this doesn't. Yeah. So they said, hey, we want to get you out there to Vancouver. Do you have a passport? I said, no, I don't have a passport. He said, okay, we'll get you a passport. And I said, oh, all right, I'll get a passport. He said, here, I'm booking a flight. We have some points and some things we can arrange to have a flight for you. And, I didn't have any money, to fly to Vancouver. I didn't have any of that. So, God bless them. They get me to Vancouver. And this is the first time I've ever flown in my entire life, was flying to Vancouver. I was very hesitant. I didn't want to fly. I told him book a train ticket or a bus ticket, because I just wasn't familiar with flying. And he said, he'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Click. And at that point, I was locked in. I couldn't back out or anything like that. So I flew to Vancouver for a visit. And this is around August. I got to see Kits Fest. I got to see Douglas, College, Capilano, UBC, UNBC. Simon Fraser at the time was still CIS, I believe. And it was a really good trip. Like, that's what introduced me to Vancouver. I got to work out and play at all of these colleges during that summer period, and basically express my interest that I want to transfer and I would like to see if I can play in Canada. And moving forward after that, the UBC coach, he said, well, right now it's a little bit too late, like going into the season. like we're going into September. However, next year you should probably consider, and you should go back to school in West Virginia now, finish getting your degree, because there's no guarantee that the credits that you have will transfer over. And if you're only 1 year away from getting your bachelor's degree, I wouldn't want to sacrifice that. And they said it'd probably be best to just finish that out. You'll still have 2 years here to play basketball because of the 5-year rule. And I said, well, that works. I'll go back down to West Virginia, finish out my degree, and then look to come back. But I actually chose UNBC. I didn't choose UBC.
Okay, so you went to UNBC?
No, I verbally committed to UNBC. And I said, listen, next year I'm coming back. I said, I can't commit this year because you already have your 2 American slots filled. However, I like this area. I want to commit to UNBC. It's small, it's country, it's, hometown, real involved and everything like that. And I said, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back in the spring and I'm gonna start training and working out, and then we'll continue from there. And finish school. I come back to Vancouver and I reach out to the coach, and there's no response. And I reach out to the coach several times. I didn't get any response back. And I asked for some assistance, like from Frank and, a couple of, just say, hey, can you help me reach this guy? I'm trying to get in touch with him, let him know I'm in town, and the next steps that we need to do in order to, go forward with the season. And they end up reaching back out and said, oh my goodness, Gabe, I forgot. We already have our 2 Americans, slots filled again with guards. And I was kind of bummed about that. I'm like, you have a returning guard, and then you recruit 2 American guards. I didn't understand that. Second, my cocky mentality, or like, how do you forget the best player who wiped through your whole team on his workout? Like, like literally, I think I had a very good situation when I went up there to work out and tried out. Was playing. I felt I was one of the best players there, and I was on a very injured ankle at the time. I had painkillers. I was off of a injury that happened in June, and my ankle swelled up the size of a elephant's foot, and I was on crutches for 8 weeks. So coming off of that, and I was in a brace and everything like that, and still participate. Whatever it was, the recruiting and I guess the mentality, or like how the coaches like recruit outside and things like that, I guess it is what it is. And few coaches told me and said, Gabe, some of the coaches here are active and some of them aren't. And that's just what we struggle with right here in Canada, Western Canada. Sometimes is the recruiting, the responsibility, or like coaches recruiting level isn't always how it is in the States. So it was a little bit unfamiliar for me to how he forgot. That's what he told me, because in the States, these coaches were calling me every week. Are you ready to sign? Can you come for a visit? They were pretty active, I would say. So it didn't work out, and I basically went back home because I didn't necessarily want to go anywhere else, and I was just sort of turned off with that whole series, that whole situation. I said, Frank, I said, thank you. I said, I'm gonna move back home to Detroit, and yeah, that's that. I'm good where I left off. I'll figure it out from here.
Yeah, just give me one quick second.
I went back home to.
Go ahead.
So not fast forwarding, but at that point I leave and I'm going back to Detroit, and the family, Frank, they tell me, they say, listen, you're a really good kid. I really think Vancouver is a good place for you. If you're ever interested, and moving back, please let us know. And I said, thanks, but I'm probably, I'm going back to Detroit. I'm not really interested anymore, like that. So I left, and I went back home, and I moved to Ohio, my former, town where I played basketball at for the summer. Wanted to hang out with my buddies, party, and just enjoy my summer, you know what I mean? And after about 3 or 4 months during that summer, I got homesick from a place that was never my home, and that was Vancouver. So I was like, I reached back out and I said, hey, I'm considering what you told me. What are some steps I can do now to sort of aid in that process of, getting back out there, whether it's for college or just in general. And then they put me in touch with the right people to do that. And during that time, I was working at a college institution as a financial aid. What was I? I was in the verification process inside of the financial aid office. It was a really good job. I was one of the youngest in the office. I got paid $17 an hour every week. I would have about $540, weekly. So during that time in my age, and like in Detroit and in Michigan in general, that $17 an hour was a high number for like anyone coming in as a first, thing. I was making more than some of the individuals in the office who've been there for several years way before me. But I believe it was due to me having my degree as well.
Education pays, man.
Education pays. So, I was young. I worked in Detroit, Michigan. I lived in Ohio. And I drove from Monday to Thursday. I stayed in Detroit. And then from Thursday to Monday, I stayed in Ohio just because that was the work schedule. And I wanted to live in Ohio. I wanted to enjoy my summer and my fall. And that was that. I had enough money to do so. And that was that. I enjoyed it. So I ended up realizing at some point in the office that there wasn't going to be any opportunity for me to grow more in that workspace, or at least within that current job. And I reached out to, started to my resources in Canada as far as to build the process on like moving to Vancouver. And that was several months. That took several months, but it ended up coming up, and I put in my 2-week notice at the current job. And a few people, in my close circle questioned me, why are you going to leave like such a good paying job? What are you going to do over in Canada? Do you have a job in Canada already? Like, what are you going to do? It was just a lot of curiosity on like, how are you going to do it? Because there was no immediate answers right away. But the story of my life, I truly believe that it would work out. And I put in a 2-week notice, and I left that job, and I moved out to Vancouver May 6, 2012.
So you remember the exact date. So it was an important day. So you came to Vancouver May 6, 2012. Mm-hmm. The funny thing is, I just had a baby on May 6th. That's literally the day my baby was born. So that's unbelievable. What are the odds? Wow. So May 6th, 2012, fantastic day. We're gonna like that day. So you go, you come to Vancouver. What's the plan here when you get here? What do you end up doing?
Well, the plan is, I try to, play college. I have to get a little bit of more paperwork from my previous school as far as the eligibility, and give that to these coaches or the schools that I'm interested in. It's such a tedious process. I mean, I went back and forth to Detroit so much. It became tiring, and I gave up on that whole process and say, you know what, I'm done with that. I'm just going to focus on career work and just finding, my place here in Vancouver and just working.
Yeah, totally.
So during the summers, I was helping out and, volunteering some time with Simon Fraser University and their basketball camps. And I met Ron Artest during that summer, just because I've seen online that he was in Vancouver via Twitter. So I tweeted Ron Artest on Twitter, and I said, "Hey, we got a good run tonight, or want to come to a run, like get some good comp." And then he said, "Where is it at? Is it any good competition?" And he retweeted back, "I couldn't believe it." And I said, "Yeah, some good competition." At the time we was doing some runs and some workouts in Coquitlam at Centennial High School. And it was like on Wednesday and Sunday nights, and pretty good comp came out. It was good. Like during my time there in the summer, that's what we did. And in the fall, that's what we did. So I invited him out, and he actually replied back, and then he came over to the run, and we started playing basketball for about 2 hours. He was like, "Man, this is great. I didn't know this was here the entire time. And I'm filming a movie here. This like, is good to know. Like, can you let me know when the next one is? Because I'm here for the whole summer filming this movie." And I said, "Yeah, I'll let you know." And he would work out, I think, a few times with Doug Eberhardt. And then he would contact me and say, "Hey, I'm doing a workout. Can you invite a few guys so that we can scrimmage and play after?" And that became our relationship during the summer of 2012. We would work out and train together and then scrimmage. And that was really it. And I think he was really helpful at that, because it was his off season for the most part. It was how he maintained to stay in shape for the most part, because he was filming the movie the entire time in Vancouver for the summer. And I was like, man, that was a really great summer. Fast forward, to the next year, or like coming towards spring, Ron reaches out to me and he asks me my plans for the spring and summer. And I said, well, right now I just really want to look for more work, and I want to train and work out. And I don't know if that means I need to move, but I've had prior thoughts of moving, and I just felt like Los Angeles was the place that I was going to move to. Ron he basically said, "Okay, well, listen, I could use a sports assistant, someone to help me work out and do some paperwork from time to time." And I said, "Oh, well, I'll help you. Just let me know when you're in Vancouver." And he said, "Actually, I need you in LA. So when can you get down here?" So that was like a prayer answer. I said, well, let me put in my 2 weeks notice, to the people I'm working with. And I said, before I do that, I need a guarantee that this is real, because I couldn't believe Ron Artest, wants me to work for him.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And I don't think Ron knows this, but he is one of me and my brother's favorite NBA players. It's Kobe Bryant, Ron Artest. Like, those are our favorite players. And, Ron Artest is one of my favorites because he resembles a lot of Rodman, value, toughness, defensive, all of that. So when I said, listen, I need
Gabe, your internet's breaking up. Sorry.
I don't know, somewhere between 4,500 to 5,500 a month.
Gabe, your internet was breaking up.
Is it better now?
Go back a second. Yeah, just go back to when he said, and then you were about to say how much he was going to pay you.
Okay. So I said, listen, you got to give me some assurance, because I have a job, and if I'm going to put in a 2 week notice, I need to know that it's not, for giggles or anything like that. This is my life, and I just moved here, etc. And he said, okay, well, what are you looking to make? And I said, I don't know, but I know I would like to move up from where I'm at and be between 4,500 and 5,500 if possible. He said, okay, here, call Lou Taylor. She'll sort out your payment, your contract, and etc. So I called Lou Taylor, and I'm on the phone with Lou Taylor, and she says, "Hi, I have a contract or like a agreement here from Ron. It says it's supposed to pay you $4,000 a month." And I was like, we never really confirmed an amount, but we spoke on, paying it. And I'm gonna pause this right quick because at that time I didn't necessarily know, is this a negotiation, or should I be negotiating with Lou Taylor and trying to bargain? I didn't know if I should be negotiating or just accepting, because this was an opportunity I considered of a lifetime, and I didn't want to lose it. So I was really kind of like in a limbo. I said, well, we didn't really confirm any amounts. We spoke on something between 4,500 and 5,500. And then she said, okay, something doesn't seem right. I'm going to call Ron. All right, I'll talk to you. I'll be back in touch. We will be back in touch. And she clicked, like hung up very quickly. And at that time I felt that. I was like, damn it, I just lost this damn job. Like, it's a wrap, And I immediately emailed her right away and said, hey, yeah, 4,000 sounds great. Amazing. What do we need me to do? What do you need me to sign? Just because I buckled. And I didn't want to lose that opportunity. So I sent that email right away. And God, thankful for God. I don't think she actually got it or read it, because the call came back, I think, a couple of days later, and they were going to pay me. It ended up being more than 4,000, but less than 5. So it ended up working out. And I was like, oh, I guess it was a negotiation, so to speak, but it worked out. And then I moved down to LA May 24th.
Okay, so what are you doing down there? What's happening? Well, that seems like a fun story. So tell me a fun story.
Yeah. So May 24th, I moved down. I'm living in Hollywood temporarily for about 2-3 weeks before I move over towards UCLA. I contact Ron. I say, hey, I'm in LA. What do you need me to do? And he said, well, I'm in Vegas right now, so we'll be back on Monday. I'm like, okay. So what I'm thinking, I wait on him. He get back on Monday. I bike down to his place in West LA, and then it's about midnight, and there's a chef cooking steak and everything. He said, do you want some steak? And I said, sure, I have some steak, and he said, do you want a drink? Sure, I have a drink, and it was just it was a lifestyle that I never really been exposed to. It was on a rooftop, patio, fires burning. You got the grill right there. The chef saying, how do you like your steak done? It was beautiful. We ate, we talked, and then he said, are you ready? And I say, yeah, we're ready for what? He said, we're about to go to the gym. It's after 1 a.m. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let's go to the gym. So I drive to the gym. I drove his car to the gym, which was the LA facility. And we worked out for about, I think, an hour, maybe 2 hours, about roughly 2 hours. And then it's about 3 a.m. and drove back. We ate some food. And then he said, I'll see you tomorrow morning. I'm like, it already is morning. He said, well, a little bit later, come by around 11 so we can do our other workout and things like that. So that was the lifestyle. It was a lot of late night workouts, early morning workouts. We work about 3 times a day. And we often worked out at the Lakers facility. And there's a few times we would get there in the morning around 8 or 7. And I always had this dream of hopefully seeing Kobe Bryant at some point in time. And you see the sign-in sheet when you go into the Laker facility, and you'll see who's signing in and who's working out or what guests they're bringing in, etc. And you'll see Kobe's name or Kobe's guest 4 a.m. So Kobe was in the gym. From the records that I look at, he would be in the gym probably 3 o'clock, 3:30, finishing up his workout around 6:30, maybe, and then leaving well before we even got there. It was only one time I think I saw the back of Kobe's head, like as we went into the gym. It was the back. He was leaving. He was going right into the locker room, and I saw the back of his shaved head. It was pretty cool. So these workouts, like Ron would really run the majority of his own workouts. I would assist him. And then at the same time of assisting him, I would also just absorb everything that he was doing, everything that he wanted to do. And, just assist where I needed to. So those were the LA days, a lot of workouts. We did go to Vegas often. And I think I went to Vegas often as well on my own, but that whole off season was meant to really just keep him in shape as much as possible. And he ended getting amnesty from the Lakers, I believe, that year. He was amnestied from the Lakers. And then we basically had to go to the drawing board and figure out what's going to happen in the fall, where he eventually went to New York. But that whole summer was, man, it was a blast. I got to train and work out with Ron Artest. I got to assist with a lot of player development coaches on the LA Lakers. I got to talk and converse with, staff, of the Lakers and other players. We also would work out, or like there were certain runs in the summer at the Los Angeles Clippers facility where only NBA players were allowed to go. So I would go in with them, and then there would be times where they would need a fill-in person because they would only have 9 guys or 8 guys, et cetera. And I had the opportunity to sort of fill in a few times to play basketball with the pros, 5-on-5. I got the chance to assist with workouts during that time with the Clippers, other player development coaches, and just pick their brains, play with guys at the same time. It was a beautiful process. A lot of basketball.
That's awesome. And so, are you finished playing at this point, or you still have another year left, or what happens there?
My college career is done. Far as like playing, like I don't want to play college no more. I'm not really interested. What really sparked the interest to sort of continue playing was when I was working out at the Clippers facility, and we needed to run 5-on-5. They needed a person to fill in, so they said, "Ron, can your guy fill in?" And he said, "Yeah, I think he should be able to play." And then I think Matt Barnes or some other player was, or it was Chris Humphries. He said, "Yeah, you're a point guard, right?" Said, "Yeah, we need a point guard." I said, "Sure, yeah, I'm a point guard, yeah." I never played point guard in my life.
I play center too, whatever you need, man.
So I say, "Yeah, I'm point guard. Yeah, I got you." So I'm checking Brandon Jennings, I'm checking Darren Collison, et cetera. And, the game goes, for the first game, it goes shit. It's ridiculous. The second game goes shit. It's terrible. Excuse my language. It is terrible. And I'm very nervous, when I'm playing with these guys at this time, because NBA, it's just a whole lot of things going through my head. And, I missed in the layup, my shots are getting blocked off of the backboard. I'm missing passes as I'm, drifting or shifting to the corner, and the ball go out of bounds. It's just certain things weren't supposed to happen that the pro players see and say, "How do you even make that mistake? Like, what are you doing? Basically, what are you doing in here?" And Matt Barnes got so mad at me, he screamed, he said, "Bleep, damn." And we lost the game, and we had to wait for another game to come on. And that the next game comes on, fast forward, the next game comes on, I stand up to sort of get back on with the same team. And he tells me, he said, no, sit down. We got enough pros now, man. Hey, such and such, you fill in. Come over here. And sat me down, man. It was a big learning experience, you know, and, you know, I felt that I let myself down because during that whole summer, I was playing pretty good. You know, I was playing with other pros and et cetera. It's just this 1 or 2 periods, you know, I got nervous for some reason, and it just wasn't good. So mentally, I took a break for about 2 weeks from playing at that facility and just really trying to get my head together as far as like when an opportunity presents itself, you need to be ready to just be you and just play for you. Like there's nothing you need to prove to anybody. You know, the gear that you have on, that the Lakers facility gave you because you were helping out, and you know, these Lakers shorts and these Laker practice jerseys and these Lakers t-shirts and etc. Like I had all those things, and I felt really good, you know, to have it. And I almost felt like it was armor but it was armor that I didn't necessarily deserve, or I guess it was armor that I didn't earn through playing for that organization. It was armor I earned from helping and assisting in player development, etc. But I had a confused complex right there with that. And I think that really affected my playing at some time because I was believing I was probably a different player than I really was. And I wasn't truly playing my game. So I threw all that stuff away in the garbage. And the next time I went to the facility at the Clippers, I had on the gear that I earned from playing in college or JUCO. And I said I was only going to play if they needed someone to fill in. And that day they needed somebody to fill in. And of course, Matt Barnes remembered me. And when they put me on his team, he said, no, you go. No, actually, he go over there. You know? And that game was probably the best games that I've ever had. Like, as far as playing against those pros and things like that, it was one of my better games. And I didn't miss a shot. I was locked in on defense. You know, I'm playing in JUCO red mesh shorts, and I think it was like a beater, like a tank top. It was nothing. You know, it didn't look like anything. But a few players asked me after the end of the games, because we won, they said, where did you play? And I said, Glenville State. And he said, what is that? I said, it's Division II, you know, down in West Virginia. And then, you know, Matt Barnes, he shook his head. And it's like, you know, some acknowledgement from there. It was like, good, you know, good game. That was good. And from there, you know, I earned my respect and stripes inside that facility. And like, when I would play, they would understand, you know, who I was, and I wasn't necessarily a scrub, you know, and that's, to answer your question, was my playing days over. That was really what sparked my interest in other players saying, I think you need to be playing somewhere, man. I thought you played for a team here. Like, I thought you was at Sacramento. And, you know, that's Chris Humphrey says, Ron, you should get this guy, your agent, man. This kid can shoot. Like, he's pretty good. You know, assistant coach over at Toronto Raptors said, you'd be a great sixth man. You know, Teron Lue, good job, young fella. You know, all of these things, like, were, you know, adding or aiding into, like, you should probably go pursue, you know, playing or, like, give it a shot. I got invited to a couple of D-League workouts, D-League tryouts and things like that. Those didn't pan out to be an official invitation to the team, but I enjoyed my time doing it. And being between trainer or coach and then like a player, I was struggling with that battle, because I'm working for Ron, but, you know, should I be selfish enough to say, let me go try my playing thing? But then again, how am I going to get money? How am I going to work? Where am I going to get my money from? So I'm between those two. And with decisions like that, you got to be all in. You know, you can't really 50-50 that thing. And, you know, the cards just wasn't in my favor. I didn't have any recent film Only film I had was from college, which was several years before that. It's two different type of players. You know, the agent contacted me and said, I heard about you. Get out of here, girl. I see you. The agent contacted me and he said, I heard about you. Do you have any film? I said, I have no film. I said, if you can come see me play at the Clippers facility or just get me a workout. Like, I don't need you to get me a job. I just need you to use your resources to tell this coach or whoever to say, take a look at this guy and let me know if he's something I should invest in. I'll get my own job if you get me a workout. I'll go take it. But I didn't necessarily have the film. I didn't have representation like that. And I just didn't have much guidance. Like, those three things are like very key when you're trying to pursue that professional like route. And had I had a lot of this guidance to begin with, film and just maturation, I think my playing opportunities would be 100% different, like totally different than now. But I chose to just pursue the coaching and helping route. Like, it would have taken a lot of time, and I didn't have the resources, and I felt like playing with those players was a little bit of a self-fulfillment, you know, like being able to say that, yes, I can play with a top talent in the league. Yes, I can play with NBA guys. I'm good enough to do that. Like, that's really what making the NBA for me would have done, was say, can you really do it? And yeah, I can play with the best guys. And at that time, I was playing with some of the best guys. You know, Kevin Durant, Carmelo, DeMar DeRozan, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, JJ Redick, Jimmer Fredette, like, you name it, like, those guys are in the gym. And it was one of the best summers I've ever had, you know, because I felt like I was this close to making, like, if the cards laid out properly, I would definitely be a 6-man on a team or a 7-man. I would be somewhere close to the NBA for sure.
Absolutely. So this all wraps up, and then you end up coming back to Vancouver, and you end up starting G2. Tell us a little bit about what brought you back to Vancouver, and then what kind of like your thought process behind getting started with G2.
Yeah. So coming back to Vancouver was it was a big spark. My daughter was born in 2014. I moved right away to China, you know, after she was born in September 2014 to China. That's where Ron was stationed. Ron Artest was stationed there with the team. And I would assist him and train him during his whole season during that time. But during that time, you know, I became a lot more mature as far as the process in which I organized his workouts, his curriculum, and just daily things as far as like film study. I didn't do that much film study, but we did watch some of the games and, you know, go over some of the things a little bit. But I decided to take more of an active role in leading his workouts during that time in China. And he advised me, he said, you got to start your company. Like, you should start a company. And my question was, what do I need to start a company for? And he said, well, you want to build a company. And when I pay you, that money goes into that company and you start to build up, you know, the value of your company. You know, when you work out with other clients in LA and stuff like that, they can pay your company. You got to start building, you know, your revenue streams and this and that. And he was giving me advice and, you know, a lot of guidance on that. So I said, all right, well, what should I call it? He said, well, just get a name. I'll help you build the website. You know, my people will help you build the website. And, you know, just find a name. I said, I don't have a name. And he said, just call it G2. And I said, okay, well, I'll call it G2. And literally, that's, you know, it was a couple other things that factored into G2 and everything like that. But really, he just said, just call it that. Like, just pick something. And my daughter being born was also like, you know, I need to get back to, you know, Vancouver. I want to be more home with family and my daughter. Simple as that. And I felt like I learned a lot from working with pros, and I felt my experience that I've my experience learned and experience had with professional industry experts, could benefit a lot of younger athletes. And if we can give them the guidance and the experience earlier, then hopefully that if our opportunity presents itself, they will be able to take advantage of it. You know, what, instead of having the opportunity to present itself and not being prepared for it, which was, I believe, like my case. I wasn't prepared for playing with guys at the Clippers facility. I wasn't prepared with film or arranging an agent to come watch me scrimmage at the Clippers. I didn't have any of that knowledge. So if I can pass on what I've learned to younger guys earlier, before they even get to college, then I feel like that would be a really good service, you know, to give back. And I reached out. Now, I didn't reach out. A few people actually reached out to me from Vancouver because they knew I was, you know, from Vancouver, but I spent a lot of time in LA and working with Ron recently. So they said, hey, here you're coming back. I would like you to help out at, you know, our gym sometimes, or would you like to help out coach? And I said, sure, I'll help coach. You know, Saltis invited me in for a couple of workouts. And other than that, like, I reached out to several other programs to sort of offer what I wanted to do passionately. And I just never really got any response back. Like, it didn't seem that it was a big, dire interest at the time. So ultimately, it just ended up forcing me into sort of just creating it myself and just doing it myself. And then working with people that were interested. But for the most part, you know, there didn't seem to be many clubs or programs interested in like having me. Once I reached out, they didn't necessarily, at least at that time, maybe it just wasn't a need in their program, or they didn't see a value in it at that time. So, which is fine. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do passionately. So I just ended up doing it my own, and I started the G2 training. And then I started working out with younger guys, individual workouts, you know, and just trying to transfer everything I've learned over the last few years working with pros.
That's very cool. So then what happens? You get G2 going. How do we get into youth development, and what's that like? Give me like the thought process behind it.
Yeah. So with G2 training, my process was to build high quality workouts, like high intensity quality workouts. And the goal would be for most of the players coming to me at the time would be have goals and be willing to put in the hours and be coachable.
Yeah.
If I can find those three in a player, then I know I can help them get to whatever their next level is or whatever that goal is. And I started to put together certain curriculums that I've learned from working with other guys and pros, and just building these high intensity workouts and being involved in the sport as much as possible at the same time. You know, using my youth at that time, and still currently using my youth to sort of be right beside that player, whether it's playing against them, doing the drills, being involved with the demonstrations, and just showing them that, you know, I'm a younger guy as well. Like, I'm an athlete as well, and I want to help you in your athlete, you know, roles. So building that youth program was really just trying to provide as much quality to as many people as possible and do it efficiently. So I took the quality over quantity approach, and I restricted workouts to certain sizes to make sure that the information I was given wouldn't just go one ear and out the other, because my information wasn't basic. I felt that it was a little bit more in depth. It was detailed, and I believe more effective with smaller groups. If I'm doing this workout with 40 people, there's probably 25 people who can't hear me clearly, you know, if I'm doing this by myself. So I wanted to build a youth program that was quality over quantity, you know, to start out with, and then share experience, and then share these workouts that I believe can help them in their goals, as far as making high school teams. You know, if you got cut from a team the previous year, what can we do to improve your game so that next year you can actually approach that tryout a lot differently. Guys that have made the team, but they struggled in certain areas on the court, or struggle with certain responsibilities that the coach gave them. How can we work on that so that next year your minutes are more increased, because you now can handle, the defensive assignment, or you can handle rotation through offense and understanding when to get back, when to box out, when to share the ball, and et cetera. So that became the goal, is how to help each player improve, regardless of their skill level, regardless of the situation. There's ways we can definitely improve your game.
Absolutely. Last question of the day. Give us, a tip that you got for kids right now that are working out during the COVID time. Give me a tip for them so that they can make sure that they get better right now, as opposed to just kind of letting it slip before the world gets back to normal. So, like, what's your tip for right now? If you were a player, what would you tell somebody?
I would tell, a few players in different age groups, different things. For the most part, I would tell them to watch and study film. And if you don't know how to study film, then pick a film on YouTube or something like that, and let it be a part of your favorite move, or whatever you enjoy doing the most. If you like shooting the ball, if you like coming off ball screens, if you like driving to the basket, YouTube those things, and then try to find several videos and watch them. Then try to see the similarities between several different players. And even though these are different players, do they do the same thing when they're doing that drive? How do they come off of that screen? Or how do they use that ball screen? What are some common denominators, as far as driving, as far as contact, as far as the work done before you even receive the ball? Try to start to understand the game from a visual perspective, from outside looking in, and just see what you can actually, where your process is, where your brain process is, where your mentality is, and just see how you put the game together. Because that may, they may not know it, but if they're able to dissect something, or if they're not able to, it'll determine, an area of their game that they probably need to improve. Because you just learn so much more from watching film. I believe as you get older, it becomes way more relevant. So younger guys, they may not understand it. They don't necessarily need to look into it that in depth, but I will still encourage them to watch as much film as possible, just so that they can start to see similarities. Film study would be my goal. Other than that, stay in shape, run. Conditioning is very important. Even if you can't shoot the basketball, that is a fundamental thing that you can get. Conditioning will keep you off of the court. It'll keep you from producing, no matter how good you are. If you're not in shape and you can only run up the court for 2-3 minutes, guess what? You're going to need a sub, and then you're a good player sitting on the bench. So it doesn't matter. Conditioning would be the key thing to do during COVID, is try to maintain your conditioning.
And a lot of kids are like, oh, I ran 5K today. It's like, when are you going to run 5K in a basketball game? Get out there and do some sprints. Get in a field, get into a track. Let's see if you can sprint. This is we're not going long distance running here, guys. Let's get out, let's sprint a little bit. Because I think that's totally true. I think those are two fantastic tips. Talk a little bit more about, let's just circle back 2 seconds about film study.
Yeah.
What specifically got you going with that, and why do you like it so much? Because I think that's a fantastic tip. I haven't heard too many people give me that suggestion, but I think it's fantastic. Go ahead.
The film study, I got more into film study, working with Drew Hanlon. Drew Hanlon is one of my mentors. He's one of the top NBA skill and player development coaches currently. And I didn't necessarily know how to study film. So working with Drew and then talking with him, there was a couple of tips, and we broke down film together, and that's where it started. So, like, let me see, how am I going? Where am I going? Repeat the question again. I want to make sure I answer it directly without getting lost in track.
No, I mean, realistically, just what would be something you would recommend for people watching the film? Like, how did that get started with you, and what do you think it really makes a difference for?
Oh, so film study makes a big difference in like how you understand the game. And when you're watching film, don't always watch the ball. You sort of pick the film apart. You don't need to watch play by play by play by play. You don't have to study film in that type of manner. And you don't also have to study film wherever the ball is, because there's certain things going on behind the scenes and away from the ball that'll help you understand where the next play will be. So if you can understand where the next play will be, then you're going to be one step ahead of the defense, one step ahead of the other team. So watching the ball sometimes takes away from that study point. So I try to encourage, when people watching film, you can watch some basketball, like when the ball is in hand, depending on what you're watching, and there's also good moments to watch other areas, off-ball movements, and what's going on. The ball is going to Kyrie Irving. What is Kyrie Irving doing before he gets the ball? So you can't know what Kyrie Irving is doing before he gets the ball unless you're watching Kyrie Irving when he doesn't have the ball. So we're always watching ball, and then we just see a guy pass the ball to Kyrie Irving and he gets a shot. Well, how did Kyrie Irving get open for that shot? Or how was he able to free himself up? So film study will definitely help you break the game down. I think it helps the mentality, like your mental part of the game, slow the game down a lot. Like, you don't necessarily have to be a speedy person. And if that's not your strength, if you're not super fast and quick, then you need to be quicker by basically freeing yourself up before the defense gets to you. So what can you do before you get the ball to give yourself some gap space, or some catch time and things like that? For me, it's been a good tool for me to use with some of the pro athletes during COVID. Like, we've watched film, and then we go over their game film that they struggled with, and then we also go over their good film and note out some good things that they need to continue to do more of. And then we look at the parts where they can improve and say, this is an area that's probably keeping you off the court, or this is an area where you struggle with, but if you're going to be playing at 4 or 5, you need to get stronger in this area because you're missing some box outs, you're missing some good screens. And if you can't free up the guard to get his shot, what make you think he's going to hit you on a pick and roll if you can't really get him a good screen? So
no, I think
film
that's
study
fantastic.
is key. I think it's the next level.
I think this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on. A lot of information. The thing I got the most from this is the path to the finish line isn't always a straight line. It's got to go all over the place. But as long as you stay focused and you're open to the process, you can eventually get to where you need to be. And I appreciate you coming on today, and it's fantastic. Thank you so much, Gabe.
No worries. Thank you for having me. Hope the information goes a long way and someone else can learn from it, and we can share some similarities and understanding down the road.
Awesome.